Well, welcome to this edition of the 700 Club. Our solicitation to the fans of Notre Dame, all the Irish throughout this nation and around the world. I felt so sorry for them.
Yeah, I didn't watch. I'd had a weekend of pro football. My husband and my sons watched, but I
watched a little, and it was just, I tell you, Nick Saban is something else. He's getting 400,000 extra first for getting in the program and then winning it, so they pay an additional 400,000. Wow. So it was a nice payday for him.
I guess so.
He's quite a coach.
I guess so.
Nick Saban, Alabama.
Hats off to him.
Wow.
And the team.
I have a granddaughter who's getting ready to have a baby. The baby is going to be a boy.
Huh?
Guess what they're going to call the baby?
I don't know.
Oh, come on. They're going to call him Bear. Bear Bryant. They won't know what I thought. I thought, that's great if you're in Alabama, man. I mean, you'll be a hero. Okay.
I couldn't imagine that might be the choice. They love their football
in Alabama, so congratulations. And our solicitation to Notre Dame, I don't know, we were hoping for the best. Well, this is one of the worst flu seasons in a decade. If you haven't gotten sick so far, you need to take extra precautions to stay well.
Severe cases of the flu have been reported throughout the country, and the virus is even worse for children and older people. Ephraim Graham has the story.
The Centers for Disease Control now says flu is widespread in 41 states. Doctors are especially concerned about the elderly and children, for whom the flu can be deadly.
Our office in the last 2 weeks has exploded with children.
Pediatricians like Gail Smith say their flu cases are spiking, especially now that most children are back in school. A 15-year-old in Michigan is one of the latest to die from flu-like symptoms. Joshua Polena came down with a cough and a sore throat December 30th. His parents took him to the doctor when he had a fever, but just days later, Josh passed away. In New Jersey, 4-year-old Jeremy Pereira is unable to go to school because he doesn't have a flu shot. His parents don't want him to get it because he has an egg allergy. An egg is a component in the flu vaccine.
I can't imagine what would happen if I put it directly into his bloodstream. That's insane to ask me to do that to my child.
The Centers for Disease Control says patients who are allergic to eggs can safely receive the shot, but Jeremy's parents are taking no chances. The CDC says 18 children have already died from flu-related symptoms. That's why many doctors continue to push the flu shot.
Many pediatricians can speak to cases we have seen with complications and hospitalized children, long hospital courses to recover from influenza. And many of us know of a child who has died of influenza.
There are two other important precautions for us all. Watch what you touch and wash your hands as much as possible. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Amen. Wash hands. I've become a fanatic hand washer. And, you know, do you wash hands?
Well, now they have those pumps with, the hand sanitizer almost everywhere, which is great.
In hospitals, in each room, they have a pump. But didn't used to be, when a doctor would deliver a baby and he'd go right to the next woman and deliver her baby and wouldn't even wash his hands. Of course, they had so many women die in childbirth because of this. So they finally came up with a revolution of we're going to wash our hands. Wash your hands, and it's touching, but it's more than touching, it's breathing. This is the pits. Okay, some people have thought, wouldn't it be great if we had socialized medicine? Wouldn't it be wonderful if the government was taking care of it and you didn't have to worry about it? Well, imagine a hospital where some patients are so dehydrated they need to drink water from flower vases. That's what happened under government health care in the motherland. The Brits have done it again. Lee Webb has that story. Lee?
Pat, Great Britain is being rocked by a healthcare scandal at one of its government-run hospitals. A 2-year investigation has exposed widespread neglect and malpractice that led to the unnecessary deaths of up to 1,200 patients. It happened at Stafford Hospital in England between 2005 and 2008. Doctors, nurses, and other workers were understaffed and overwhelmed, according to the investigation. Critically ill patients were regularly overlooked and even given the wrong medication. The staff were threatened with firing if they could not keep up with the quotas and regulations of Britain's national healthcare system. The London Telegraph newspaper reports hospital managers were reportedly more concerned with cutting costs than caring for people. Pat, yes, there is a cautionary tale in this story.
Spare us from Obamacare. Spare us from national socialized medicine. Spare us from it. That's the consequence, but that is shocking, absolutely horrible. Think of the suffering and the torment. 1,200 people dying. It's awful. Lee.
Well, Pat, the arts and crafts retail chain Hobby Lobby could face more than $1 million in fines every day for defying the Obamacare contraception mandate. That's why thousands of Hobby Lobby's customers showed their support for the Christian-owned company's pro-life stance. They called it Hobby Lobby Appreciation Day. There were reports of packed parking lots and long lines in the stores. Hobby Lobby employees said it was like a grand opening at their stores across the country. The company's conservative Christian owners say they have to remain true to their faith by not providing abortion-inducing drugs. In an open letter, Hobby Lobby CEO David Green wrote, "The government is forcing us to choose between following our faith and following the law. I say that's a choice no American and no American business should have to make." Hobby Lobby continues to fight the mandate in court. Jay Sekulow of the American Center for Law and Justice will join us on tomorrow's 700 Club for a special report on the legal challenges to Obamacare. Senate Republicans are gearing up for a fight over President Obama's nominee for Secretary of Defense. Conservatives have questions about Chuck Hagel's views on Israel and other foreign policy issues. And John Waggy has that story.
President Obama's Hawaii vacation is over, and now he appears ready to battle for his latest controversial nominee.
Chuck Hagel's leadership of our military would be historic. He'd be the first person of enlisted rank to serve as Secretary of Defense, one of the few secretaries who've been wounded in war, and the first Vietnam veteran to lead the department.
Some in Washington believe the Hagel appointment is designed to help put Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in his place in the Middle East. South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham calls Hagel's promotion an in-your-face nomination by the president.
If confirmed to be Secretary of Defense, would be the most antagonistic Secretary of Defense toward the state of Israel in our nation's history.
Hagel has said he's not intimidated by what he calls the Jewish lobby in Washington. He also strongly opposes any military plans to stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons. And as a Republican senator, he opposed the successful surge in Iraq.
The most dangerous foreign policy blunder in this country since Vietnam.
Hagel's views do not go down well with Senate conservatives who will vote on his appointment.
And the job of the Secretary of Defense is to be a serious, credible strength and deterrent. And unfortunately, I think weakness in a Secretary of Defense invites conflict because bullies don't respect weakness.
Prospects of the Hagel nomination have already prompted an ad campaign from opponents.
Chuck Hagel is not a responsible option.
But some Senate Democrats are defending him.
Chuck Hagel is a tremendous patriot and statesman, served incredibly in Vietnam, served this country as a United States Senator.
Although Hagel is a Republican, party leaders are less than enthusiastic about his nomination.
I'm going to wait and see how the hearings go and see whether Chuck's views square with the job he would be nominated to do.
The president is expected to have less trouble confirming his new CIA director. John Brennan, a 25-year veteran of the CIA, is an advisor to Obama and also worked in the Bush administration. He once called Hezbollah an interesting organization and referred to Jerusalem by its Islamic name, Al-Quds. John Waggy, CBN News.
Pat, going back to Chuck Hagel, it's interesting that the Republicans are the ones who are more concerned about Hagel's nomination. But at the end of the day, with the advice and consent role that the Senate plays, it's the Democrats who have the majority.
They have a majority, but the Republicans can block it. Whether they will or not, it remains to be seen. But it was kind of like saying, I'm going to appoint a Republican, but I'm going to get a Republican that looks more like me. Hagel went overseas with Obama, and he shared his point of view. Calling the surge, for example, the worst foreign policy decision since the Vietnam War, I mean, it's just shocking. The surge was what got that impasse in Iraq solved, and it was a very courageous move, and Hagel was against it. he flows with the wind. He's not a good, and I tell you, Lee, getting shot in the rear or in the shoulder or whatever as a private in some foxhole doesn't qualify you to lead the Defense Department, you know. I mean, sure, he got a Purple Heart. Well, good for him. Nobody wants to take in any way away from his bravery, his service, but that doesn't qualify you to handle the foreign policy of the United States of America. It depends on your viewpoint. It depends on your skill in management. It depends on it. This is a huge, huge bureaucracy that whoever takes it would have to run, and he's not qualified to do it. Again, we don't take one thing away from his brave military service. But remember, just because somebody is a private in a foxhole and he gets shot doesn't qualify him to lead the nation. Lee?
Planned Parenthood has reported a record year for abortions. Its annual report shows nearly 334,000 abortions were performed in the last fiscal year. That pushes the nation's largest abortion provider's figures to nearly 1 million in 3 years. At the same time, contraceptive services at Planned Parenthood dropped 12% since 2009. Cancer screenings and prevention services dropped 29%. Meanwhile, Planned Parenthood reported a record $542 million in taxpayer funding last year. The Susan B. Anthony list reports that's 45% of its annual revenue. Pastor Youssef Nadarkhani has been released from jail in Iran. The Christian pastor was rearrested on Christmas Day because authorities said he had not served his full sentence. Nadarkhani had spent almost 3 years behind bars in Iran under a death sentence for refusing to renounce his Christian faith. He was acquitted in September. The American Center for Law and Justice says he was freed Monday and is at home now with his family. Well, as Pat mentioned earlier, the University of Alabama has won its 3rd national championship in 4 years. The Crimson Tide scored on its first possession and rolled to a 42-14 victory over Notre Dame. The game pretty much never in doubt. Alabama running backs Eddie Lacy and T.J. Yeldon combined for more than 260 yards rushing, and that man, quarterback A.J. McCarron, threw 4 touchdown passes. The Fighting Irish could only admire their opponents. All-America linebacker Manti Te'o said they just did what Alabama does. Other than Notre Dame, though, the biggest loser may have been ESPN. The score was 28-0 at halftime, and you can bet a lot of folks on the East Coast turned it off at intermission, including me, and went to bed, Pat. How about you?
Yes, I must confess, I did turn in later on just to see what was happening. I got the score and turned off again. I mean, it was heartbreaking, Lee. I mean, it really is. You know, Notre Dame is a great school and has a great program, and your heart goes out to them. But those people were manhandled by Alabama.
Yeah, it was a slow game.
Slow? Oh, it was fast. McCarron is awesome. I mean, he just kept scoring passes. But
from the other side standpoint.
Oh, man. They needed a whole bunch of Hail Marys or whatever they say. They have special prayer, you know, for the team. And I just wish them well. Anybody, you're watching TV and you want a contest where both sides are fighting and the score is, you know, in doubt.
Well, you got a good night's sleep. Look at it that way, right?
Oh, well, that's definitely.
The Supreme Court will be taking up 2 key cases involving same-sex marriage. The court begins the second half of its term today. The arguments in those cases are set to take place at the end of March. One case involves California's Proposition 8. That's the voter-approved constitutional amendment defining marriage as between one man and one woman. The second will look at the Defense of Marriage Act, aimed at protecting the traditional definition of marriage. Justices will hear 1 hour's worth of arguments on both laws in the last week of March. The Gallaudet University official who was suspended for signing a petition backed by traditional marriage groups is back at work. Gallaudet is the nation's leading university for the deaf. As CBN News reported, the school suspended its chief diversity officer last October. Dr. Angela McGaskill had signed a petition calling for Maryland voters to be allowed to vote on whether the state, in which she's a resident, should legalize same-sex marriage. University officials said some felt her action was inconsistent with her role as chief diversity officer. People on both sides of the issue spoke up on McGaskill's behalf, saying she shouldn't be punished for exercising her First Amendment rights. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com